Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Let me tell you, I think a lot of businesses out there need help, particularly in the staffing space, and they have absolutely no idea what a difference a company like Carlton Staffing would make. They have been great friends of this program for quite some time. And one of the reasons why we bring them on is because I'm a big advocate. I mean, I'm like the Pied Piper when it comes to using companies like Carlton Staffing, because the reality is that business is hard enough as it is without being in the HR business while doing whatever it is you do for a living. And so you make people's lives so much simpler, and you allow people to focus on profits rather than on headaches, which I'm afraid that's what HR tends to be. And so I love what you do, Annette Monks, and glad to have you as always.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And indeed, Carlton Staffing does help employers find great employees. And we help people with office and industrial positions. And we do temp to hire and direct hire placement. And we have a division called KTEK doing engineering and IT placement. Yep. But I'd love to introduce today my friend who is our guest today. Her name's Kimberly Johnston, and she's the CEO and founder of The Good Works. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Cool. Kimberly, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being on the show today.
Why don't you start with your elevator speech? You know, kind of give us an overview of what The Good Works is all about.
Sure. So Good Works Houston is a charity, and it's focused on supporting and scaling entrepreneurs that are solving our city's most pressing social and environmental challenges. We launched about 3 months ago, and the market response has been overwhelming.
Very good. Annette?
So where did this idea come from, and you know, what made you decide to launch this?
Well, as a finance executive for CenterPoint Energy and having 3 millennial children, I came to a point in my life where I was just really being reflective and thinking about our social and environmental challenges really outpacing the viable solutions today, given the political polarization, given the downturn of the commodity prices and the pressure it puts on charitable giving, as well as I have 3 millennial children that are interested in pursuing working for purpose-driven ventures. So through that conversions and thought process, I thought, let's look about forming a social innovation institute. And it was really through traveling and visiting leading global institutes last year as an impact investor, and hearing fabulous stories from 20 plus extraordinary entrepreneurs that are doing remarkable, amazing work around the globe.
Very good. By the way, the website is goodworkshouston.org, goodworkshouston.org. Annette?
So I hear you use the term social entrepreneur. And could you help me just define exactly what that means and maybe give an example of a venture that you've helped so we can get an idea exactly, who you're helping?
Great question, Annette. And it's interesting. There is a huge range of interpretation on what a social entrepreneurship is, but Good Works Houston, how we define it is your product and service is really directly correlated to the problem you're solving in our society. For instance, one of the ventures that we're supporting is Farm Dirt. They have an acre in the 5th Ward, and it's a compost. And they are really reducing the methane gases as well as landfill waste by taking overproduced produce and food in our market and converting that into soil, and then distributing that within a 30-mile radius to go to urban farms, gardens. And so that's one type of social entrepreneur.
Yeah, how many people work for the organization?
So right now we're all volunteer-based, and it's extremely dedicated team, obviously committed to the organization to be on a volunteer base. We have a fabulous executive director and team. So right now about 20, 25 people.
Very good, Annette.
So I understand you launched in January.
Yes.
And so what's been the response thus far? What have kind of the accomplishments been to date?
So one of our first programs is offering a 5-day lab for these ventures at Rice University in June. So we opened up applications and we received 60 ventures that applied to that lab.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And extraordinary ideas, all tackling major problems from wellness to medical to upward mobility to environment. And so we're going through the process right now of selecting the top candidates that would represent our first class.
That's fantastic. Very good. I do want to give the website one more time, which is goodworkshouston.org. Goodworkshouston.org. Annette?
So, are there any other organizations out there that do this? And if so, what makes you different than them?
Great question. So there are about 4 leading global social institutes in the U.S., and we are partnering with one, Unreasonable Institute out of Boulder, and that's where they've been very willing to share their curriculum, their global network, and they have a viable program where they've supported 300 ventures, 91% of them remain viable and sustainable today. What is a differentiating from Good Works Houston is there's nothing here in Houston. And also, we are focused on ventures that are solving local problems right in our backyard. We're going to soon be the 3rd largest city, and global social problems are right in our backyard. And so that's really our competitive or our differentiating factor in the market is we're looking locally, and then we feel if we can solve it here in Houston, we can take it out to other markets in urban cities and global.
So I looked at the website, and you have several major issues that you're trying to address. Do you have kind of a triage approach, or are there certain ones you're focusing on more than others? Kind of talk a little bit about that.
So we thought we'd just toss a net and see so we took a very wide approach in the beginning, and the response has been from those 60 applications, I would say probably a half are in upward mobility, and then the other half are kind of spread evenly among medical, wellness, and environment. We're going to select our top ones, and then the future will probably become more vertical, where we're offering more labs on a targeted area and really bringing in a collaborative.
And you probably break down into several verticals.
Correct.
Yeah. Very good. Annette, with about 30 seconds left, why don't you wrap it up for us?
So how can people get involved, whether it's from the corporate perspective or those interested in your service?
So I think first, if you know of a social entrepreneurship, please refer them to goodworkshouston.org. Even though we're limiting our applicants, we are providing support. Also, we are looking for mentors. A lot of these ventures do depend on a strong ecosystem of mentors, expertise to really scale them.
Very good. With that, we're going to have to wrap it up. Again, your website, Annette?
CarltonStaffing.com.
Yeah, people need to check that out. Let me tell you, stop the headaches is what I always say. All right, when we come back, we're going to have much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here, it does show up over there at usdailyreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. And you're listening to The Price of Business.